Welcome back to the show. Let's get right to it. We're going to cover a new recent hire for Ripple. We're also going to talk about two other things here, which is, well, actually three other things here we're going to talk about. One, debt jubilee, not just for the country, but for the world. Number two, XRP and how it plays a role in that or could play a role in that. And number three, what we're really going to talk about is the SEC proving that pre-allocation of XRP is very real. Let's roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at Backup Bradley above at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Let's get right to it. So I'm not even going to train wreck this person's name, but I just want to say welcome to the Ripple team. He joins us from Amazon, or they join us from Amazon. I don't know if it is a he or she, but nevertheless, Ripple's new SVP engineering, leading the team that's building the infrastructure, enabling the Internet of Value. Learn about his approach. It is a him. His approach to building customer-centric technology. So there you go. Welcome to the team, and onward we go. Now, what I really want to get into here is the idea of a debt jubilee, not just for the United States, but for the world. And I think I'm going to walk you through a very strong, compelling idea about how it could happen and how it involves XRP. And I believe I can even show you evidence that there is really strong, compelling evidence that they've already pre-allocated XRP greatly in order to facilitate that role. So let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, and stay with me through this, ladies and gentlemen. I think you're going to like how this lays out. One, let's just cover a debt jubilee quickly as a clearance of debt from public records across a wide sector or a nation. Such a jubilee was proposed as a solution to the debt incurred or anticipated during the 2020 pandemic recession. So let's go ahead and get this right. This isn't just some YouTuber talking about this. This has been talked about by a lot of other people, and citing right here the American economist Michael Hudson. So let's keep going for the sake of moving through this, because let's talk about the total debt that we can get a number on for the globe. Spurred by a sharp rise in government and corporate borrowing during the pandemic, the global debt load increased by $15 trillion in the first 3 quarters of 2020. Now, I know that this number is going to be higher than I'm going to read it to you now, but we know it is at least this much. And it now stands at the time of that in November of 2020 at $272 trillion, the IIF said in the latest global debt monitor. So that's where we're at least 272, probably closer to 300 at this point. 270 to 300 trillion is where we're sitting easily, right? Okay. And we could probably make a case for even more, but the reality is there's a number to work with. Now, here's an article that came out in March of 2020. A debt jubilee, will our debts be written off? The idea of a debt jubilee, general society-wide cancellation of debt, goes back to biblical times. Could it happen again, and would it really do any good? I'm not going to read through this whole article, but I do want to highlight a couple things in it. So I will tell you right now, this is something that went on back in biblical times. Every 50 years, there was a signal to really cancel personal debts. And in some cases, foreclosed land would be returned to its former owners, indentured slaves were set free, and debts were written off. Now, this is not a guess. I mean, this is something that happened in history. It says, yes, until recently, some historians doubted a jubilee would have been possible in practice, or such proclamations could have been forced, says Michael Hudson, the economist we cited earlier here. But research by Assyriologists have found that from the beginning of recorded history in Near East, it was normal for new rulers to proclaim a debt amnesty upon taking the throne. Okay, so now let's go down to here instead of worrying about when the first debt jubilee was, because we know that they have happened, and it's not something that we're just pulling out of thin air, right? Okay, so here is the idea of this, but listen to this. But because the idea of a debt jubilee, which enjoyed a flurry of interest after the great financial crisis of 2000s, it is getting renewed attention given the current global emergency. Back then, versions of a jubilee were backed by orthodox voices such as Morgan Stanley's influential economist Stephen Roach, as well as radical ones. Roach argued for a grand out-of-court settlement between bond investors, banks, and consumer groups, what he called a great haircut, to fix the underlying problem of excessive debt and jumpstart the economy. Obviously, the idea is resurfacing now because the world is facing two simultaneous overlapping crises, which being an economic crisis and then the pandemic itself. Okay, now let's move to this, because this is an article, or this came from an article from a gentleman who wrote this a year or two ago, and we're going to get into it. And this shows the world debt collectively and how it's broken down, right? And it says XRP will be a world reserve currency, and it will be used to pay off debt. It will solve the debt crisis without devaluing fiat currencies. For example, the U.S. government and other governments could buy XRP at very low OTC rates, which goes along with my whole pre-allocation theory I've had for quite some time here, which wouldn't drive prices up on the retail exchanges. Precisely. Now let's go to the article in question here from Mark Phillips, and it's a really great article if you haven't written it. I covered it when it first came out back in April of 2019. But it's worth the revisit because of where we currently are. Now, we understand there's a lot of debt, okay? North of $270 trillion. And we'll just go ahead and take this from where it is. What I want to focus on is this section right here, because debt jubilee is, look, the people that push back on that and say, nah, that can't happen. Their main argument for that, which is a good one, is how do you make the bond makers of all of this debt whole? How do you satisfy the bondholders of all the debt that's out here in the world? You can't just tell them, well, oops, that debt that you hold is now, it's cleared off the books. Well, what happens to them? You can't just have them lose, right? So it would create an economic vacuum of sorts. So the idea is simply to create new ghost money, as we called it back in the early days, which is XRP. It says here, XRP will be a reserve world currency and it will be used to pay off debt. And listen to the way it lays this out. This is exactly the way we've approached this idea of pre-allocation around to different central banks of the world and governments of the world. It will solve the debt crisis without devaluing fiat currency. For example, the U.S. and other governments could buy XRP at a very low OTC rate, which wouldn't drive prices up on the retail exchanges. Listen carefully. Likewise, major financial institutions could also stock up on XRP at extremely attractive prices. When all systems, policies, and agreements are in place, and we are moving through that regulatory clarity phase right now, mind you, they simply announce that XRP will serve as a reserve currency or a bridge currency, if you will. I like bridge currency a lot better. This drives the utility and demand, which rapidly increase the price of XRP and moving that utility and demand to the network of the XRP ledger. The governments could then settle their debts using XRP, which would not devalue their fiat, because they would not be printing any additional dollars or other fiat currencies. Hence, by bringing the value to the network, the volume and utility is what would drive the price of XRP. There has been no printing of money to acquire the XRP, meaning that you've just given this commodity or currency the value it needs without artificially inflating it through printing money. Let's keep moving. Here we're looking at the actual SEC Ripple Labs lawsuit. As we look through this, I want to start reading right here where it says B. Overview of Ripple's XRP distribution. Let's go through this. It's very short. Ripple's planned distribution of XRP succeeded. from 2014 through the end of 2019 to fund its operations. Ripple sold at least 3.9 billion XRP through market sales for approximately $763 million US. It says here from 2013 through the end of the third quarter of 2020, Ripple sold at least 4.9 billion XRP through institutional sales for approximately $624 million US. Let's get this clear right now, that they sold 4.9 billion XRP through institutional sales for approximately $624 million US. Okay? Now, if we just divide the amount by the amount of value there, we come out with, I think, 12 cents per XRP, I think, if I've got my math correct. But it's irrelevant for this. But I'm just showing that, it's over-the-counter sales at a very low price. Also to fund Ripple's operations for a total of at least $1.38 billion US in market and institutional sales alone. It says here the market price for XRP and Ripple's sales price in the offering range from a low price of approximately 0.002 of a penny per XRP in 2014 to a high price of $3.84 per XRP in early 2018, an increase of 137,000%. Listen to this next line at 82 when we get here. XRP traded approximately 58 cents per XRP as of last week at the time of that lawsuit, I think it was. Starting right here, Ripple also undertook to achieve its goals a widespread distribution of XRP by exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration, not accepting money, such as labor and market-making services. By the way, this is not nefarious. I don't say this in a way that they did something wrong. In fact, I think it's asinine to think that they did do something wrong. This is exactly what they were supposed to do, right? Is to incentivize the market makers into all the different areas of industry that could be helped by this technology. And in turn, they will agree at some point to obviously update their legacy systems and connect to the new market infrastructure that Ripple has been building, right? And to obviously at some point bring the volume and utility from their business onto the network, onto the XRP ledger, right? Ripple also undertook it to achieve its goal, widespread distribution by exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration such as labor and market-making services. This is a pre-allocation of XRP to market makers and labor to be able to build the system out and incentivize the network. In some cases, you could even refer to this as seigniorage, where they actually get and incentivize market makers, let's say like remittance companies, to use XRP instead of the old direct path of settlement. And then in doing so, if they suffered any cost on their end for using the new bridge path with XRP, they would cover that like a rebate cost. Whatever loss you incurred to use the new bridge path of XRP, we'll cover that, because Ripple understood over time, and still does, that over time you will bring more customers into that corridor and into that choice, eventually creating what's known as a Jevons paradox, which is just a constant flywheel and perpetual acceleration of the use of this product because of its scalability and efficiency, right? So this lays out exactly here that pre-allocation absolutely has taken place. Now, I don't know what your or someone else's definition of pre-allocation is, but this certainly covers mine. And it would make sense, because if we're talking about the idea of, XRP being a bridge currency to the world, it's going to need to be in the hands of the people that can bring the volume and utility to the network. And the only way to do that in the early days, when you don't have the leverage and you're trying to convince everybody it's better tech and it's a better form of money and a better form of settlement, you have to use non-cash considerations. you have to use pre-allocation. Why is it pre-allocation or pre-contractually done? Because you can't allow these new customers to dump back on the market. There's got to be some rules here, right? In order to keep the integrity of this new money. Remember, it's not money unless everybody agrees that it's money. The only person not agreeing right now is the SEC. Now, let's go on to this idea. This is a clip from Brad Garlinghouse in 2019. Let me just play this quick clip here and just know that it's now over 8,000 cryptocurrencies in the space and not 3,000 as he suggested it was a year ago back in 2019. Let's just...
I think, anytime there's a new market, there's a lot of people that run into that market and try to show that they can solve a problem, they can deliver a customer need. I have said publicly before that I think 99% of all crypto probably goes to zero. But there is that 1% where I think that is focused on solving a real problem for real customers and is able to do that at scale. And that's going to be game changing. And I think that's going to continue to grow significantly in the decades ahead.
That really tells you what's going on in his mind. You're going to see a lot of those go away. Use case will be the new inflection point, the new watermark for this space, right? Now, before we go on, we've heard a lot of talk about stable coins. I mean, a lot of talk about stable coins. In fact, I shared with you this morning's video, just as a reminder here. And let me see if I can just zoom this in a little bit here. Yeah, there we go. So right here, this is the European Central Bank issuing a paper, aspects of digital currencies and fintech, and this is what they're talking about as they move forward here. It really matters to them when they're talking about design features of central bank digital currencies and global stable coins. Global stable coins. When they're talking about central bank digital currencies and global stable coins on exchange rates, capital flows, and global financial assets. Central bank digital currencies and global stablecoins on global monetary policy spillovers and spillbacks. Central bank digital currencies and global stablecoins on the international role of currencies. What you do not see in this list is you do not see cryptocurrency in this list, do you? No. You see central bank digital currencies, which are CBDCs, and global stable coins is what they're talking about at the ECB. Now, I'm not suggesting that cryptos are all going away. But Brad Garlinghouse told us he believes 90 or 99% of them go away because they don't have use case. They're not really solving anything. So at the end of the day, when those go away, how do they go away? Well, they go away by attrition, right? Because people are not going to continually invest in something that doesn't have a use case. The market ends up sorting that out, right? And regulation as well. That's right. As we move closer to getting the clarity we need, I think we move closer to understanding that stable coins are the on and off ramps of this new digital space that we are in. And so are global stable coins, apparently. And maybe it comes down to us understanding that this is where we end up. Because listen, there is huge talk. There is no mistake that we are getting central bank digital currencies. And we are also getting global stable coins, although we don't know exactly which ones are those at this time. I believe that there is a great chance we see a solution like this take place because of all the focus on the on and off ramps of CBDCs and stable coins. And listen to this.
And so again, I come back to the idea of that presents regulatory challenges. Now, there are a bunch of solutions that I've heard people talk about on this. One would be, imagine a world where there was a central government blockchain and all other chains sort of connected to it. And the government blockchain allowed the government to make its own changes. And as it saw errors in the code or discriminatory features, it could simply go in directly and fix them.
Well, listen, that may be speculation on his part and on the other people he's heard talk. But the reality is who controls the monetary system today? Oh, that's right, the governments do. and the banks. And do you think for a second that they plan on relinquishing any of this? Because if you do, I've got some waterfront property in Arizona. Oceanfront property I'd like to sell you in Arizona. Then there's this, a reminder from not only David Schwartz, but from Alan here, to reminding everybody that, maybe I'm about to say something stupid, so correct me if I'm wrong, but SEC declares XRP as a currency, XRP moons. Every bank wants to be a part of RippleNet. All stablecoins, national currencies are created on the XRP ledger. XRP is the bridge asset to all stablecoins, which by default, in my estimation and my studies, would make XRP a global stablecoin. And maybe all of this runs on a central blockchain by the government. Giving us a new financial monetary system that is regulated and monitored by the government and all the appropriate regulatory agencies, just like, bear with me, the metals market, just like the derivatives market. All of these things are enormously defined as what they are, and they are hugely regulated, right? Heavily regulated, I should say. That's where we're going. And I would give this and offer this to any Bitcoin maxi out here. Careful what you ask for, because you're about to get it. You want to be anti-bank and anti-establishment? Well, I got a sneaking suspicion you're about to be. And it just may be illegal to buy, hold, sell, and trade Bitcoin if they keep on the way that they're going. Unless it's on a central government blockchain. I don't know, but I'll tell you something. Between this and the idea and understanding that we are moving to a heavily regulated framework here, that is obvious to me. And it is obvious to me, too, that XRP has been pre-allocated and pre-contractually handed out to the right industries and areas that can bring the volume and utility to the network. And in doing so, when they get the clarity they need, that will drive the price of XRP, in my estimation, to thousands of dollars per XRP. It's not financial advice. But then you have the back door open for the central banks of the world to be able to bail themselves out. Because in the last crisis, the central banks bailed out the hedge funds. And in this crisis, there's nobody to bail out the central banks, because that's where the debt sits now. That's going to do it for me. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Make sure you share with somebody you know and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Check out all the links in the description box and the comment section for anything that you may want or need. They are trusted products and services and links that I use every single day. I'll catch you on the next one.